Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson, a World Alternative Media here, and we're joined by Tim Picciott, the Liberty Advisor, and we're going to talk about Wells Fargo again today. I know you've all been waiting for another video on Wells Fargo, as earlier this year, as we could see on the screen, the stock cratered from almost 60 points all the way down to about 20, and now it's bouncing between 23 and 25, down 3.3% on the day as I record this video. It's not market close yet, so I don't know where it's going to end up, but I do know that it's probably going to stick around the flat line. Wells Fargo has been plagued by controversy over the years, and obviously they're well known for creating fake insurance and repossessing people's stuff on houses and cars, creating fake bank accounts and all sorts of stuff like that, shady business all around. I think we accounted in one video once years ago with John Sigurdson for something like 70 scandals between 2015 and 2018 or something like that. I mean, they've been plagued by scandals, and alongside Deutsche Bank, they're one of our favorite banks to make fun of. But as this article at a Market Insider says, Warren Buffett has slashed his Wells Fargo stake to a 17-year low. Here's a chart tracking his 30-year investment in the bank. And by the way, Warren Buffett is Mr. Wells Fargo. After all, he's the guy that's been promoting it while licking his ice cream on a daily basis, just basically blowing or pulling the alarm on Wells Fargo, telling everyone to invest and get involved in Wells Fargo, saying it's a very good bank, it's a great bank, despite all the scandals, while he talks about all of his virtue signaling and how he helps the poor and all that kind of stuff, while just doing all that to get around taxes. Anyway, we're going to get into all of this and more today, but first make sure to hit that like button, check those links below, share on social media to get around the shadow banning, join our newsletter at www.iambanned.com. It only takes a second, my friends, to put in your email, and of course we are completely viewer funded, so go to the GoFundMe, Patreon, or Subscribestar link below if you want to help keep independent media alive, as well as Bitcoin. And of course, on top of all of that, we also are on the other social media platforms like Flote.app, BitChute, LBRY, and Minds, mostly on Flote and LBRY. Make sure to go over there and join us there, as we won't be on YouTube much longer, as they're demonetizing us, censoring us, and they're about to take us off of this platform. Also, if you want to get the new PFT Privacy Protector, I highly recommend it if you want to keep your health safe from the radiation and stop yourself from being tracked everywhere you go. Dan Dix of Press for Truth and a man by the name of Howard have been working on this product and did a lot of market research for this, so I really highly recommend you go and get one of those, linked below as well. Anyways, let's get into this article. As I mentioned before, Warren Buffett has slashed his Wells Fargo stake to a 17-year low. Here's a chart tracking his 30-year investment in the bank. And let's just go down to this chart here, and we see him back around 2012. You see him slashing his stake substantially, the size of stake in percentages here on the side. But obviously, he got really involved in the early 90s, and he became Mr. Wells Fargo after a while, now cutting a huge percentage of his stake to about 2%, down from initially at one point 14% just a couple of years ago. So, Tim, let's talk a bit about Wells Fargo. They've been in hot water many times, and it almost didn't seem to affect their share price that much. Obviously, being a major bank, they do a lot of fractional reserve from what I've seen. Also, on top of that, they have a huge derivatives exposure, and their cash to deposit ratio, it sucks like most banks. But with that said, you see this major downturn around the time of coronavirus, just showing how weak this old guard system really is. It's really exposed a lot of the weakness in the mainstream banking system. So what do you think about Warren Buffett pulling his stake? I know you're a certified financial planner, so there's things you cannot say, but with that said, from your perspective, looking at Warren Buffett, Mr. Wells Fargo, slash his stake to a 17-year low at this point in time, what does that tell you?
So we're just talking about this because it's in the news, not making any buy or sell recommendations on here. But Warren Buffett not only sold this, but he also sold Goldman Sachs earlier as well, and then notoriously actually bought Barrick Gold. And so that was one of the first times, or maybe probably the first time that we've seen Warren Buffett buy gold, because he's notoriously, has at every single opportunity bashed gold every single time he could, and he's been a darling of the banks and owning a lot of the banks. Going back to 2008, 2009, he had some really crazy kind of sweetheart deal with Goldman Sachs. But what gets me about Warren Buffett is that he gets his perception as being this, he's just a nice guy eating an ice cream cone. And, back in the day, he was, a very good investor. But lately, in my opinion, what he has more become is turned into this mouthpiece of the politicos, where he is able to get certain legislation passed and influence legislation that then benefits his companies, but it's because of his, clout more so than at this stage of the game than the investing abilities, at least in my opinion, because, he does other things too with that Goldman Sachs deal. I can't remember all the details off the top of my head, but he was able to exchange some other shares into something else. And if you or I were to do that, we'd have to pay capital gains, but he was able to defer that. And then you see a lot of other people who want to, tout him up as being this, charitable man. Well, one of my main wheelhouses is actually specializing in charitable giving planning and knowing how this stuff works. I've given presentations on this, workshops on this, where I've gone very, very in depth to this. And basically, if you're at that type of level where you have capital huge amount of capital gains, and whether it's something like Bitcoin or on stock or anything, the elite are able to. And actually, you don't have to be elite. I mean, if you're out there, sitting on a 7-figure gain, go to thelibertyadvisor.com and I can show you how some of the stuff of what Warren Buffett's doing, because they make themselves better off by quote unquote giving away their money than if they hadn't. So then he gets gallivant around with Bill Gates as they talk about how charitable everybody is, when really it's like, oh, he only his secretary pays a higher tax bracket than him. Well, he only pays himself like $1 or like $100,000. I mean, obviously it's a big difference, but for him that's nothing, because all of his gains are in capital gains. But he doesn't have to pay capital gains because of the different types of charitable giving that he's done, where I don't know the exact method that he used, but as somebody that does intricate planning on this stuff for individuals, that I know that there's that definitely it's not just out of the goodness of his heart. And
he knows it, and a lot of people know it. I mean, like, the thing is, he is a genius investor. There's no doubt about it. He is probably one of the top most genius investors of the 20th and to the 21st century, even though he buys a bunch of crap that I wouldn't buy and supports a bunch of things that I wouldn't buy. And I actually think that he does some pretty evil stuff. And on top of that, of course, it's all virtue signaling. He's a nice old guy. It's like Rockefeller, J. Rockefeller or J.D. Rockefeller at the end of his life is like, well, everyone looks at me as this old miser, so I'm just going to do philanthropy. He gave dimes away to homeless people. Oh, look at me. And then it transformed his family into a philanthropic family. Warren Buffett is similar in the sense that people were going after him a lot in the 90s for being predatory. So what he did was suddenly he's like, well, we need welfare. We need to help feed the poor, all this kind of stuff, virtue signaling to the people that elect politicians based on giving free things away, quote unquote. And meanwhile, and he knows as well as anyone else, the system doesn't work. But with that said, he's known for giving to charities. He's giving to charities because if he gives to those charities, he will save money. He's going to keep more of his money if he gives to those charities. He's literally doing that just to get around taxes. Now, am I against that? No, but with that said, it's dishonest to say that he's just doing this out of the goodness of his heart. Oh, I want to help the poor. He's doing that because he can help the poor, and by doing that, it can look good, and by doing that, can save money. That's just brilliant, market research strategy.
And let's also not forget that if you actually break down the largest recipient of the TARP funds, and then you break down who the owners of those individual companies were, it actually traces back to Warren Buffett was basically the largest welfare whore of anybody in 2008, 2009 from all the bailouts. And so he wants to raise your taxes and saying, taxes on rich guys like him are high enough because he's taking your money to then enrich himself. Yeah. Like he needs the tax base higher so then that way he can make himself richer, and then he doesn't pay taxes. And if you want to be in that, and I would say he doesn't pay taxes, but it's not nearly as much as what you think it is because of the different charitable giving strategies that he's probably more than likely is employing. I mean, he's definitely part of the Gates Giving Foundation, but I've had people who've sat through my presentations on different types of charitable giving, and the heads have absolutely exploded. And really, if people understood how all this, quote unquote, giving worked, they'd be absolutely outraged. But at this point, don't hate the player, hit the game. Like people like him help influence it, and I'm just trying to help my clients know the laws and the rules that are out there to make themselves better off, because at the end of the day, paying the least amount of taxes is a better way to help you and your family. And we know that anything that goes to paying taxes isn't going towards roads and going to stuff anyways.
And we also know that he personally has bailed out entire industries as well as savings and loans agencies in Canada. Like, for example, Home Capital Group was a huge real estate loaning, like savings and loans kind kind of thing in Canada. Sorry, I can't remember the exact name of what kind of enterprise they were, but the point is, we used to report on it a lot. They went bankrupt, and it was at risk of collapsing the whole Toronto real estate market, and Warren Buffett came in and bailed them out. And since then, he's made a fortune off of them. Some people are like, oh, he's just saving people from losing their home and all that. That's wishful thinking. He's made a fortune off of doing that, out of giving them a bailout, and he put a few $1 billion into bailing them out. So just remember, go back in time, look at what he's done, and look how much money he's made off of it. It's not just out of charitable, the warmness of his heart. A lot of billionaires do the same thing, by the way, and don't go on TV as some virtue signaler. But anyway, the point is, Wells Fargo.
They got Bill Gates talking about on, this is at Davos, talking about how giving money to the vaccine, different causes, it's a 20-to-1 basically return on his money. And so, he gets to, and that's the worst part about these guys who are absolute vultures at this point, who then get to gallivant around like they're, trying to save everybody. I think he was also involved in Countrywide Financial. I'm not 100% sure on that. I know that the CEO at the time was Angelo Mazzillo, but I hadn't looked into that in like 12 years. But yeah, one of the first books I ever read on investing was Benjamin Graham's Value Investing, which Benjamin Graham was his, and it's actually just sitting right over there, was his main mentor. And now he's stepped away from value investing, which basically has been dead for the past 10 years, and now has gone into companies that he would have never gone into before, like names like Amazon and Apple.
And I do want to point out that Home Capital Group, because I was confused there a moment ago, is a Canadian holding company and is a credit agency. I just wanted to make that clear. I totally forgot what kind of industry they were. I've done thousands of videos, so just keep that in mind. But with that said, going forward, Tim, let's talk about briefly as we wrap this up, because again, by the way, if you want to become a client of Tim Picciott, you can go to thelibertyadvisor.com below in the links below. But how much further can Wells Fargo put off the inevitable? And I don't mean just specifically Wells Fargo. I mean the whole industry, like the old guard system of the old banking system, that obviously there's a lot of people, and they've been talking about it for many years, talking about, replacing the old guard system with the new guard system, mostly decentralized and stuff like that. With everything that's happening in the world, how much longer, in your opinion, can these old guard systems like Wells Fargo hold up and continue doing what they've been doing for so many years?
Yeah, I don't want to comment on Wells Fargo specifically, but we're at the point now where I think even the average person out there, obviously not you guys are above average, are realizing that the debt can never be repaid, and it's just now trying to get into how it's ultimately going to shake out, because you can't make everybody happy. But my guess is that they're going to introduce some sort of maybe there's some new digital dollar that's backed by the Federal Reserve, that's not backed by anything, and then that's going to be tied. So now all the money is going to be tracked, traced, and surveilled, and it's we're going to take your your $20 that you have in your bank account, and if you get it turned into this new money, maybe we're going to give you 25, and then we're going to also going to if you get your vaccine, we're going to give you $1,000 are going to go directly into your account over there. And so there's going to be some sort of in the past, this one, I don't want to say like this time is different, but the thing that's different this time than other times is that the U.S. is the central is the world reserve currency, and so no one wants to be the one who has the whole entire system collapse. But actually, I mean, from like a Cloward and Piven strategy, which are, Cloward and Piven were Obama's mentors, where they wanted to overload the system. And then once you overload the system with, welfare and all the entitlements, then what happens is the whole system collapses underneath its weight, and then you get to go rebuild it. And so they didn't want to have that collapse underneath, Donald Trump, obviously, because they didn't want him to go back to be the one that rebuilt it. The plan was to have that happen underneath Hillary. And then at that point, what would happen is that they, the left then gets to, which, not even the real left or fake left, and there's plenty of things that I'm probably more liberal on than anyone from the left, but I think that eventually, who knows, the fact we're even at this point now and people don't get it, maybe when the interest is $1 trillion a year, even though rates are at when rates are like 0.001%, and there's still going to be $1 trillion a year, maybe at that point, I don't know, but maybe Warren Buffett even gets it because he's buying things like Barrick Gold, I'm sure once next time they have another release that we'll probably see that he bought other gold companies as well. It's speculation. I don't know. I can't say for sure whether he does or not. I'm not making any recommendations, but it seems like even some of the old guards starting to realize it. Even some of the regular talking heads. Even you pointed out that Paul Krugman Looks like he's like 90 years old and homeless now. So maybe he's starting to even worry about this sort of stuff, or maybe it's his security stuff that he has in his computers that,
Well, okay, look, also, I wanted to point out that Warren Buffett, a lot of people are saying that his buy on gold could push Bitcoin to 50K. I mean, there's a lot of speculation going on right now, but it's interesting to see a lot of the old guard people start to warn of the things that we warned about for years, and a lot of the institutional investors and the Keynesians out there warning about the things we've warned about for years, just to cover their butts, and because they don't want to be like Ben Bernanke, like 3 days before the crash in 2007, saying everything's everything's rosy, everything's going to be great going down the line. Same with Janet Yellen, we won't see another crisis in our lifetime, and then Jerome Powell saying that we won't see interest rates move in 2020. I mean, all these people are wrong, and we all are basing all of our financial freedoms on these people, which is something that needs to end immediately. And we do see the shift happening slowly but surely, and I do believe we are going to prevail long term. Things are going to get worse before they get better, but I do believe we're going to prevail long term. Anyway, let's close this off. As I mentioned before, if you want to become a client of Tim Picciott, you can go to thelibertyadvisor.com, linked below, and I guess we'll wrap it up from here. Make sure to hit that like button, share on social media to get around the shadow banning. I mean it, guys. We need you guys to share on social media, including our library links and stuff like that, because the videos automatically go to our library. It takes a little while to get them up on BitChute because of a processing issue on BitChute, but we are on BitChute and Flote.app as well. Flote.app being the, really, they're just trying to replace Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, Tumblr, Reddit, and Patreon all in one with encrypted private messaging. No algorithm in the news feed, so that basically you see what you want to see rather than what Flote wants you to see. And then, of course, you have, pledging and Bitcoin on there. You could tip people on their live streams with Bitcoin, and right away we'll have monetization coming right up on the videos on Flote. So that's a lifesaver.
And they're doing it on a string shoe budget. So, I mean, if you're trying to replace all these systems without taking in like huge, massive outside funding, like, if you're Facebook and you're getting, contracts from, LifeLog with the CIA and stuff, yeah, you can build things pretty easily. Even like YouTube couldn't, back in the day, couldn't even, before they had to sell to Google because they couldn't get all the bandwidth. So just be patient with some of these newer platforms because, it's not easy, trying to replace every single one of these at once from a voluntarist perspective that isn't going to try to, screw you later on. So.
Right. The only way that these websites are going to do better is by people using them. And the more people use them, the more investors potentially might go in there and invest in them, which gives them money to put into devs and all this other stuff, which builds them up. And then it's more useful and more prevalent against these old guard systems that we're talking about, because many old guard systems are being replaced by new guard systems in many different ways. Also, we are completely viewer funded and demonetized, so make sure to go to the links below for GoFundMe, Patreon, and Subscribestar. And again, you could donate in Bitcoin, or you can go to our CoinTree address, and there's a bunch of different cryptocurrencies you can donate in, as well as on Flote.app you could pledge in Bitcoin. You just have to fill that wallet up first. And then, of course, something that I've been trying to get people to go on for a while, because I think it's really important, is www.iambanned.com. It takes 2 seconds to put in your email on there, and it allows us to reach you when we inevitably get deleted off of YouTube. And if we're not deleted by November 5th, we're leaving and only posting trailers to our full videos on the other platforms anyway. Again, you could go to thelibertyadvisor.com to become a client of Tim Picciott. And finally, you can get the PFT Privacy Protector that Dan Dix of Press for Truth has put a lot of work into, linked below. Keep yourself safe, keep your security safe, keep your privacy safe, and keep your health as, well, healthy as possible. How do you say that? Keep your health healthy as, that doesn't make any sense, but you get it. You guys get it. Anyway, I really appreciate everyone watching today, and until next time, this is Josh Sigurdson and Tim Picciott signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change. My friends, it is go time. We are completely demonetized on YouTube, and we depend on the viewer to stay alive and spread the message of freedom and truth. So check those links below. GoFundMe, Patreon, Subscribestar, anything you guys could do to help keep independent media alive helps enormously in helping spread this message to the masses. So make sure to check those links. Donate to our Bitcoin address on the screen or below. We really appreciate anything you could do to keep us alive. You could check those links below for CoinTree as well, where you can find other cryptocurrencies that you can donate and keep WAM alive. Find us on Flote.app, Flote.app, as well as BitChute and LBRY and Minds. We're on all the other platforms. We are leaving YouTube soon, so make sure to find us at those sites, because it's the only way we can keep talking to you, the masses, the great people that actually care about the future of free humanity. Also, join our new newsletter at www.iambanned.com. Anything helps at this point, guys. We need to support free information online. This is the most difficult time in our history, and it takes a lot of hard work to keep our message alive in the face of great evils that have taken over the propaganda news on television as well as on YouTube, where YouTube decides what you can or cannot see. We need your help, my friends. So I really appreciate anything you guys can do. Check those links. There's many ways you can help. Until next time, though, thanks, everyone. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.
I'm sure you have already changed people's minds in your young age because you're involved, and I like that.